Heaven just knows what it wants. Will I go back to the place where I belong? Everyone could break my heart, but I try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. You'll be my pleasure. I got nothing to be scared of, because where people live, there is always love. I know the answers in my heart, so I'll try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. Will you be my pleasure? To let go. Memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. Will you be my pleasure? Heaven just knows what it wants. Will I go back to the place where I belong? Everyone could break my heart, but I try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. You'll be my pleasure. I got nothing to be scared of, because where people live, there is always love. I know the answers in my heart, So I'll try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. Will you be my pleasure?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you're watching in the world, welcome along to League Racing TV, and you join us for what will be the halfway point of EML Premier, where we get some of the fastest teams, we unleash them around the tracks and see who comes out on top. And of course, the next stop on our calendar is the Canadian Grand Prix at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Canada, always a twist in the tail, and of course on a man-made island originally made for the Olympics. They decided to build a track on it, and so it has remained here in the streets and on that man-made island of Montreal. And of course, we couldn't do this without some of the best commentators around there. So I went out there and I got myself a James Head, who is joining us in the commentary box, ready to take action and ready for the coverage to all unfold. James, it's a pleasure to be alongside you once again for this Canadian Grand Prix in Esports Masters League. How on earth are you?
I'm doing really well, honestly, looking forward to the action that's going to unfold, I think, in front of us out on track tonight. And with 4 teams separated by 8 points at the top of the standings, it couldn't get any closer coming into tonight.
No, it really couldn't. And just taking a look at those standings, you can see that, well, we have a new championship leader in Leonis Esports leading the way on 122. S2V dropped down to second place. And Customs Exilium rounding out the top 3. TTG Esports there in 4th place. And James, 8 points separates the top 4 teams. My goodness, how close is that?
Really close, and I think in terms of the consistency, I think LR and Customs Exilium have been probably 2 of the most consistent teams out there on the grid. They have just scored point after point after point, and it's all been racking up to 1st and 3rd in the standings. Run through the rest of the standings as well. Team Mentalism in 5th on 98 points, FL Esports in 6th, I should say, on 88. F1 Friends Cup in 7th on 72. Team Norway Racing TNR in 8th on 70. GTZ Bulls in 9th on 27, and CPI, big shocker, down in 10th on 9 points. I said last time we came here, of course, last month, that they should have a really good result. Look what happened. They scored no points last time out, so I'm not going to say it ever again.
Yeah, Curse the commentator was well and truly deployed there, and I'm sure the whole team loved you after that one, James. However, let's have a look at the driver lineup. Now, of course, if you know EML, you know that these are still unofficial. We don't really know who's going to be in the car until we get out onto track. But these are what the teams have submitted to us. And as you can see, Vettel and Dende taking the TTG Esports car. Amazing Hour and Harry Banks in the Leonis Esports car. Then you've got Kaz and Smash in Team Mentalism. Kazizzle and Young Power in the FRL Esports car. Volakongan and Thomas in the Team Norway Racing cars. Pedro and Dantas taking their role up in the GTZ Bulls. Connor and Bullet Boy in the CPI TTI Esports car, Andreas and Ruben in the S2V Esports car. You've got Homaba and Mickey in the Customs Exilium car. And, of course, in the F1 Friends Cup, you've got Gongora and Ruben T. Eve. That's going to be a bit of a tricky one between S2V Ruben and F1 Friends Cup Ruben, but I'm sure we'll find a way. James, looks like a pretty strong lineup, but there's one name that really jumps out at you that you're hoping is going to race tonight.
I'm hoping that he is going to race tonight. I see him in the lobby. It's CGT Pingu, and hopefully he's not going to be going newt out on track. That's my joke. Terrible.
Right. Yeah. Got
it out the way.
Yes, we have at least got it out of the way, and oh my goodness, I feel the migraine coming on already. But there's plenty of reserve drivers out there. The only team, my apologies, that hasn't got a reserve driver, confident that both their drivers are going to turn up and do well, are Team Norway Racing. Every other team has at least their reserve driver ready to go if needed.
I think TNR have got a wide pool of drivers. That's probably why they don't put down a reserve driver, because they're always available to race. Bullakongen has been doing really well in Division 2. Thomas as well in TNR has been doing really well in the Norwegian League. So it'll be fantastic to see how those guys get on. I think the team for me to look out for tonight, certainly, will be TTG Esports, because they've got a newcomer into the grid. Dende is his name, or Denda, whatever you like to pronounce it as. He's alongside TTG Vettel. Going to be fascinating to see if they can keep up the consistent results like last month.
Of course, it's going to be a little bit tricky to try and keep up that consistency as much as possible. But, of course, let us know in the chat, who are you supporting for tonight? Which flag are you flying here tonight? Are you backing those leaders in Leones? Or maybe you're here to try and cheer on CPI to help them get up the order. They've only got 3 points next to their name there, James. And we talk about how you've got to get to the checkered flag to score some real points here in Esports Master League. So why are CPI so low down the field on 3 points?
They're down on 9 points, actually. I'm not sure if you're reading that wrong. I think they're on 9 points, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like a 3. It looks like a 9. It looks like a 3, I should say.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. We'll go with that. We'll go with that. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think with CPI, their reason for not finishing the races, I think, is down to mentality. They get caught up in incidents. Mentality, I should say. A little bit of French accent going on there. But CPI, I think, could really set themselves alight here tonight. They've got Connor, who has been a revelation in League of Europe Division 1. He could have won the championship. He was that close towards the end of the season. And they've also got, I think, Bullet Boy, if I'm not mistaken, racing with them tonight. However, I believe they're only down to one driver currently. But Connor might be the one to watch, certainly, for pole position in qualifying.
Yeah, and of course, here at the Canadian Grand Prix there, we'll just take you a quick tour of the map of this track. At least plenty of DRS zones, but not many heavy braking zones. But that does not take away from the charm of what is the Canadian Grand Prix. It's a man-made track, purpose-built circuit, but feels more like a street circuit with how close those walls are, especially towards the end of the first sector and the beginning of sector 2. We've seen the massive crash just before turn 10 of Robert Kubica all the way back in 2007. Went on to come back the next year to win the race. It was his only win in Formula 1 before he had to pull out of next races due to an injury he sustained whilst rallying. But I have to say, James, this is my favourite track on the calendar, and not just because it's around my birthday, maybe. I do like this track because it does offer up some fantastic racing, and of course, we talk about turn 13 and 14, which on the outskirts of it doesn't sound like a huge deal. Throw the Wall of Champions in there, and suddenly it becomes a really tricky corner.
Wall of Champions, yeah, 1998, of course, it was, where Villeneuve, Schumacher and Hill went into the Wall of Champions, and that is why it is called that to this day, 22-year on. And 22-year on, in the sim racing world, we're about to get going here in Canada. It looks like, with the final driver ready to up, I'm going to hand it over to you. We're just waiting on Dantas to ready up.
Well, we're just waiting for that one, so hopefully we will get underway very, very shortly indeed. Hopefully you are going to enjoy this really good night of racing. Hopefully you've just tuned in from League One and are hoping to get some more of the same as we head our way in towards that Canadian Grand Prix. It's not long away, I promise you that one, as we get ourselves ready for 18 minutes of short qualifying to determine who will start on pole position. But in the meantime, though, it is Esports Masters League round number 5. Let's get this underway with the Canadian Grand Prix. Here we are then in Montreal on the circuit that's built on an island. Here in Montreal for EML Premier round number 5. And this marks the halfway points in the calendar. And we take you to this Canadian Grand Prix. Tyre wear, well, it's not going to be a huge issue because we're on the softest tyre possible. C5, C4 and C3 gives the drivers something to think about heading into the race here. We are still expecting that one-stop strategy to take full hold and full grip in this race. Those narrow walls are so unforgiving though. 4.3 kilometres takes us round the 14 turns of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, located in the heart of Montreal. True detection points with 3 activation points gives you plenty of chance to get full throttle all the way around the circuit. You're full throttle here for much more than 65% of the lap, and from turn 10 hairpin down towards the final chicane, you're on the throttle for at least 13 seconds all the way down, thinking about your next braking point. But here we are then, joining into qualifying, and we've got 19 drivers here. Now comes the amazing moment where we get to see all those lovely liveries out on track once again. And as we keep saying every single month, James, so much work goes into these liveries and so much work goes into making sure that the drivers have a similar livery. A couple of updates ago, they did have the colour selector using the numbers, so that makes it a little bit easier to try and share each other's liveries there to try and get you out there in a similar looking car. But so much work goes into it and so often it pays off.
Every single team has got to be given credit for their liveries. I'm on board Volokongan, who's the first out on track, and it looks like TNR have actually changed a little bit of their lineup because red, white and blue on that livery, it's traditional Norwegian colours. Now TNR are primarily black and white, and they don't want to have a black and white car. Even though you'll be able to see it out on track, you won't be able to depict who the driver actually is. So Volokongan going for the TNR team, looking to try and set a good lap here, and the Norwegian is coming through the hairpin at turn 10. Of course, by Kubica went off in 2007 and then went on to win the race a year after that. And Volokongan is about to prepare up for a lap.
He is indeed, and of course racing in that F1 70 livery. That's why it looks a little bit different. That's why you don't recognise it, James. He's running a little bit of a standard F1 70 livery. But coming into the final chicane, James, it's a lap here of Montreal.
Yep, let's go on board with Volokongan then in this lap for Montreal. They've got cars coming out the pit lane just in the foreground of shot there, but Volokongan now coming through turn 1 and then through turn 2. Nice and hard on the brake. About 50 mile an hour maintained as he spins the car on the exit of turn 2. Then on the run towards 3 and 4 out on track. And this is a very tricky chicane. Vettel, Hamilton, 2018, remember. That is Dende getting out of the way to the left-hand side of him. 19.4 through the first sector. Now we could see 105s, 106s possibly from the guys out on track tonight, looking at some of the time trial times that they've been doing. Volokongan, though, is now coming up towards turns 8 and 9, and this tricky chicane, you don't want to get caught on the right-hand side because it will really fling the car up into the wall and you'll pick up the end plate damage as a result. Volokongan now towards the hairpin at turn 10, 41.2 through the middle sector, not looking too bad in terms of lap time so far. Volokongan will be hoping to try and put the TNR team within the top 10, certainly with this car. Of course, his teammate, of course, out there, out on track as well. And I'm just trying to spot who that is, actually. Can't see another TNR name on that list. But Volokongan through the final corner, looking very good through the wall of champions. This is pretty much now a lap of Canada complete. 109.3 from Volokongan.
Yeah, not a bad time at all. Of course, these multiplayer cars, it's going to be a little bit different to what you expect in those proper cars out there. We call them proper cars. We call them the official cars is what we should call them, because these are beautiful cars out on track. Dender is now making his way in towards turns 3 and 4, wearing that classic Schumacher liveried helmet all the way in the mid-2000s, of course, using the 2005 variant with the 7 stars on the lid, celebrating those 7 titles that Schumacher has now drawn level, has Hamilton onto that record number. Who knows what could happen next season as we head into a brand new season of Formula 1. We'll focus, though, on Dender as he now makes his way onwards through turn 9, now heading his way on towards that hairpin of turn 10. Andres goes top of the table, 108.0. Amazing Hour in second place, 108.4. Kaz is in third place with Vettel fourth. Lewis there in 5th place, Volokongan in 6th. So 6 drivers setting a time so far, and Volokongan, who we did ride on board with, is now at the bottom of the food chain at the moment. Here we go then with Dender as he makes his way towards the final chicane and in towards that wall of champion. Bit of a lock-up on the front right-hand tyre, and you can see the hesitation on attacking that chicane that we'll so often see. 109.1 is good enough, though, for third row on the grid.
Yeah, goes behind his teammate by about 0.5 of a second out on track. Pingu, by the way, had invalidated his lap, waddled his way through the final corner and picked up an invalidation. I know, I will stop with these penguin puns, honestly. Connor is on a lap, though, and he is coming towards the end of the final section. He's coming towards the wall of champion chicane now. He looks like he's actually backed out of the lap, and I think he's run out of fuel coming into the pit lane. Destroys the board, as that is Ruben going into third for SCV.
Yeah, not a bad lap at all for Ruben. 4/10 off of his teammate, of course, but still plenty of time in this session to try and find those 0.4 of a second, probably even more as the track evolves into a better state. You've got to be really on it to try and just try and exploit as much of the track as you possibly can. I'm riding on board with Harry Banks, I believe this is, for the Leonis Esports car. Of course, the two drivers here in these cars are top of the table. An amazing hour putting it into second place. Easy to see why so far. Here comes Harry Banks then through that final chicane, and much more confident that we've seen already in this session. He heads his way towards the line. 108.078, missing out on that provisional pole position by around 7/100ths of a second. So close for Harry Banks, but still, there's plenty of time in the session to go.
Yeah, 0.05 of a second, in fact, between Andres and Harry for first and second. Really good lap time, though, by them both. Because Zizzle now we come on board with. He's got his teammate Young Power, who's going to give him a better slipstream running down. Normally, this is what I like to see in League of Europe when these guys do this. But Zizzle now running towards the final couple of corners. We'll be hoping for a really good result out on track. I think we've got him on a lap now coming through the final corner, and he looked like he invalidated through there, but across the line goes quickest, 107.7, and that might be the lap time to beat. 107.7, really good lap time, absolute picture perfect through that final chicane. It's exactly how you want to take it, because Zizzle on top.
Well, Kazizel right now on top of the table, and that's exactly what FRL wanted to see. Now his teammate, Young Power, has got to try and see if he can get as close as that as he possibly can. 19.2 in the first sector as we now make our way in towards that turn 6 and 7 section as we now head our way down towards this little back straight. DRS online here as Kazizel now helps Young Power with a little bit of slipstream, but going through turn 8, he invalidates the lap time, and that is Young Power's chance of getting a good time on the board for at least now over for the moment. Kazizel, though, on top. Only driver then into the 1 minute 7s with Andres in second, 108.029, and Harry Banks, 108.078. It's getting mighty close at the top of the table. Hamaba then in 11th place, not representative lap time, a 25.3. We are expecting much quicker from him during this session, but he's just got a bank a lap on the board, and hopefully you'll get to see, I used to do this when I was racing in, career mode and early stages of my league racing career. You normally set a banker lap time on a tyre you don't think you're going to do quickly on, and that green delta time helps you and encourages you to go even quicker. So maybe that's the strategy Homaba's going on there. Then again, I since retired from league racing, taken to the commentary box, so I mean it's your 2 cents on whether that one worked or not.
Do you want to trust Kieran on that one, is I think the question that everyone is now going to ask. Gongora is on the lap coming across the line. He's going to go just ahead of Yamaba, actually, 109.3. He's about 0.03 of a second off Volakongan, and Volakongan is actually 6/10 up now on a lap as we pick him up, running down through turn 12 the kink, and then running down towards turns 13 and 14 out on track. Zizzle still out on top, Andres second, Harry in third. I think Amazing Hour is out there on a lap if I'm not mistaken as well, but Volakongan coming through the final corner. He will improve significantly on this time, goes up to 8, 108.6, and he's 0.04 of a second on Vettel, splits the two TTG drivers.
Yeah, we're just having a look at the chat, so do make sure you give your support to your favourite team, your favourite drivers out there, as Pingu gets a big lock-up in towards turn 10. Lots of contrasting reports from lots of weathermen in the chat. We've got dry weather in the race, we've got wet weather in the race. We could have both, but who knows at this point in time. Maybe they're trying to psych us out. However, Pingu's making his way through that final chicane and onwards now towards the start-finish line. What can he do in that CGT car? He can put a 108.9 on the board. That is the 9th fastest time of the session, puts him onto the 5th row of the grid. The future in the chat, they're saying, watch out for the guys in the pits. They're probably preparing a wet weather setup. Now, that's something that obviously comes into effect if you've got a wet weather race on the horizon. Do you try and go out there with a wet weather setup and hope that it rains, or do you stick with a dry setup and just cope with whatever Mother Nature throws at you?
I'm looking at the interpretation of the comments there, and I honestly think it's going to go from dry to wet in the race. Pedro's on a really good lap, by the way, goes 5th for GTZ. Really good lap time from him. 108.1, he goes into 5th ahead of Ruben, who's out there on an out lap. But just to come on to that point, yeah, I think honestly these guys have got to try and set a quickest lap time as possible, because I feel they're going to be on a dry set of tyres at the start of the race. If they're not, they're going to be on a wet set of tyres, probably the intermediate, and if it's going to dry up, it will probably dry up around the halfway stage, maybe even earlier than that. So that's what we normally see on the game, but don't trust me, trust the weathermen in the comment section, I think.
Well, absolutely. We haven't got that upgrade we've been so desperately looking for in our commentary box just yet. However, we're holding out. Hopefully one day we get that lovely update there. We've just had a CGT car come across the line. That's Hamaba. That's a much better lap time from him. 108.2, which puts him 6th fastest. 3rd row on the grid then for the Customs Exilium GT car. And you have to say, Customs Exilium have been really impressive this season so far.
They have been, and they're in the top 4 of the standings, and they're well up there. They've got Yamaba and Pingu. Pingu down there in P12. Hopefully he'll be going up into the top 10 with his lap times. I was desperate to say a penguin pun once again, but no, I've stopped that now. Yamaba is on a lap. He is on a down lap. He will come into the pit lane with 7 minutes and 15 seconds to go. Kazizel is still out on top, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is not on a lap because he's got right side end plate damage on that car.
Yeah, Ruben, meanwhile, here in the F1 Friends Cup car, is now making his way through 8 and 9, trying to steer in and try and get that car really looking like it's hunkered down as much as possible. Now heading our way in towards turn 10 as we fly underneath the Canadian flag in towards this grandstand section. Great chance of an overtake if you're the fan favourite, of course. Now making our way now on towards the final chicane. You've got plenty of time to think about this. Open up that DRS and try and use as much straight line speed as possible, in excess of 200 miles per hour as we approach 205 into 206, not quite 206. Now I'm making our way through that chicane with the Wall of Champions looming on your right hand side, now towards the line. And what's this lap time going to be? 109.7 from Ruben, and puts him 15th fastest in the session.
Yeah, a full tenth of a second off his teammates, in fact, so not a bad lap. Andres, I thought, was going to be a lot quicker through the middle sector one initially, and Ruben's nearly spun it in front of him. His teammate nearly spins it out the hairpin. Andres very lucky not to pick up any damage. He in fact gets a little bit of a toe off Kaz. I think Ruben was trying to set him up down the straight and then pull off to the right hand side like we saw with Kazizel earlier on. Now Andres has got to pick it up. I think that's an invalidation. He hits the wall for good measure on the exit. I think that's an invalidation. He's picked up right side end plate damage and he didn't improve. 107.981. It will have still put him in second position with that lap.
It will indeed, but unfortunately, when you invalidate through that final chicane, it's just so annoying, because what normally happens is that invalidates your next lap as well. I'm riding aboard with Kaz here as he tackles through turns 3 and 4, now making our way through that long right-hander of turn 5. Full throttle through there as we head in towards turns 6 and 7, keeping the car nice and balanced, nice and poised through 7 especially. Don't get on the power too early or too aggressively, or you will spin up those rear tyres. And you can see there Kaz really trying to max out 7th gear wherever he can, over turns 8 and 9, and really over turn 8 is the correct assumption for that one, as Kaz tries to use as much of the track as possible. Now making our way in towards the hairpin then at turn 10, and then it's onwards towards the final couple of corners, and we go through 11 here, then it's 12 coming up just this right hand kink here. That's turn 12 as we make our way towards 13 and 14, otherwise known as the last chicane, otherwise known as that dreaded Wall of Champions corner. Flying through there. Does he touch the wall? Yes, he gives it a slight kiss on the way through. No invalidation. And here comes Kaz towards the line. Second fastest. 108 flat. It's not often you see a time on the bubble, on the nose, but a 108, 68 seconds to the dot puts him into second place.
Yeah, really good lap time, that. I think the graphics changed, by the way, when you were commentating on that lap, because Andres and Amazing Hour have now set the same lap time. I don't think that was the case beforehand. I didn't think they set the same lap time. Unless I've just picked up on it now, it might be that case. Smash, by the way, for MNT went 8th for Team Mentalism, 108.294, 2,000th of a second off Yamaba. But I've got a man out on track, Connor, who's actually just came into the pit lane. So I'll come back to you, Kevin.
Young Power, though, is on a flying lap in the FRL car as he makes his way down the back straight onwards towards that chicane. And there's plenty of time to think about your braking point towards that final chicane. Looking up then, looking to your left-hand side, trying to pick out some sort of braking marker then. Making our way onwards now towards that start-finish line. Young Power in the FRL car goes 9th fastest into the top 10, 108.3 from the FRL car. Not a bad lap time, gets him into the top 10, but with still 3.5 minutes on the clock. How long will he stay there?
Yeah, 108.3. He's with Harry actually setting the same lap time as Kazil. Just noticed that to the left-hand side. Harry has gone quicker, almost, than Kazil. Same lap time for pole position. Vettel is on a good lap as well, coming across the line. He comes. He only goes 6th in the end, 108.1. But we're beginning to see the cloud begin to build. So these softs are not really going to be operating at the best temperature as possible compared to early on in the session. Head drive through the final corner as well, coming across the line. Doesn't improve in the end, but he did pick up a little bit of time in that final sector. There's not many guys out there, to be honest, and to come on with FRL, they're in the 24 Hours of F1 event on Saturday. Kazil on top, Young Power 10. They replicate that across all 20 races. They could be one of the teams to watch.
That's a heck of a long event, isn't it? But maybe they'll be looking at this for some sort of practice as well. But they are absolutely dominating at the times. Are we sure they're not the same driver with the same lap time? Last time we had something so similar, so dramatic, was in Jerez back in the late 90s. I believe it was 1997, where we had 3 drivers set exactly the same time. Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher and Heinz Harold Frentzen all set the same lap time. But they did it in the order of which lap time was set first, which is why the order was as it was. Kazil then has been on that 762, I should say, for the longest time, and so Harry Banks has set that lap time second, so rightfully he's placed second in the standings, and that is a little bit frustrating because 1/1000th of a second extra, that's all he needed, and he could have taken provisional pole for Harry Banks.
Yeah, Harry Banks second. Amarvorth Ruben is on a really good lap. He just got slipstream off his teammate running down into World Champion chicane. Ruben now across the line. Goes 7th, just in behind Vettel. Not a bad lap time there at all from the STV Academy man. And he really picked up the time in that final sector because of the toll that he got. One man, though, I said for pole position, Connor, has not set a lap time just yet. And he's just nearly hit the wall, coming through the final, into the final 2 corners. So that is not great at all.
Not too great, but he'll be hoping to put that behind him and now go out there for one flying lap. Really, this could be his only attempt of the session. Currently the only driver in the session not to have set a lap time. So he's got to be on the money and try and get out there as quickly as possible. We've got cars coming out of the pits. That's one of the white cars. I think that's Amazing Hour who's just made his way out of the pit lane. No, it wasn't. It was another white car. So it might have been Young Power making his way out of the pit lane. This is the problem, you see. If you've got Kazil, Harry Banks, Amazing Hour and Young Power all in similar liveried cars, you're going to get bound to get them mixed up, especially on the race map. However, we're into the last 60 seconds. To be more precise, last 45 seconds of this qualifying session. It's all about now trying to get to the line and make sure that you get to the line to set a lap time. Kazil top of the table right now, 107.762, with Harry Banks in second place. He's the one who wants to try and take this pole position. Kazil, meanwhile, makes his way onwards towards the start-finish line. He's going to have to go again. He invalidated his last lap time. He will have to go again. This is his last chance.
And now Connor coming through the final corner. Oh, he messes up a little bit of an overcorrection through there. Volakonga aside, probably in the pit lane. Connor across the line. Does set a valid lap, but it's only 13th, 108.4. And he rightfully crashes, I think. He's not happy with that lap time at all for CPI. And down in 13th. Why would he do?
Well, we've got Kaz, who did not improve his lap time. Oh, no, we've got someone off. It's Vettel off at the final corner, and Pingu could go absolutely nowhere else other than into the side of Vettel. He is out of qualifying. Such an unfortunate instant. Pingu really did nothing wrong, but he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Denda is on a little bit of an off lap here. He's a 10th down on his best. Checker flag is out, by the way, in this qualifying session. Kazil was backed out of his lap time. This opens up the opportunity for Harry Banks. Can he try and set a lap time in this session? We've got Kaz, who's gone faster through the second sector, but he's on worn tyres at the moment. Harry Banks getting a little bit of a tank slapper out of the hairpin. I'll stay with Harry Banks as he makes his way towards the line. I'm sure James will be on board with Kaz to see if he can improve, but we've got Amazing Hour and Vettel who've taken the checker flag. They won't be improving at the moment. Ruben as well. Keep an eye on him. He's currently 7th in the standings. Harry Banks has invalidated his lap time, but he'll carry on towards the line. Would this been a lap? It would have been. It would have been pole.
Kaz, oh, he falls short. Improved, but finished 3rd. 107.8.
And Ruben backs out of his lap time. Yeah, he backs out of his lap time. He can't improve. He won't be able to improve anymore. So Kazizel then will come across the line. He won't have set a better lap time, but he might have set an extra lap or two on those tyres that he didn't really need. But he will take pole position, not by an amount of time, but simply the fact that he set that time first. 107.762 is enough for Kazizel, and I have to say, it's a Leonis on the front row at least. Kazizel, which is, a name we haven't really seen so far this season for FRL, has come out of the blocks and has absolutely taken that pole position really early on. And, well, what a lap time, what a qualifying session, and that builds up to a fantastic race.
And I did say that was the lap time to beat when he set it as well, so Kazizel really impressing. The crowd's just beginning to go right at the end of the qualifying session as well. Top 5 drivers, all from 5 different teams. Just to mention that.
Well, that's lovely and diverse, isn't it, going into this race? But there you can see Kazizel and Harry Banks exactly the same time. Andres and Amazing Hour exactly the same time. I'm seeing a common trend here, but it is Kazizel who grabs pole position for FRL. It's Harry Banks in second, Kaz is in third, with Andres fourth, Amazing Hour in fifth, with Smash in sixth, Vettel in seventh, Ruben eighth, Pedro in ninth, and Hamaba rounds out the top 10. It's Young Power in 11th, Denda in 12th, Connor 13th, Gongora in 14th, Kongan in 15th, Pingu 16th. Could have improved on that one, but he did crash out at the final corner. Lewis in 17th, Ruben 18th, and Dantas rounds out the top 19, but I don't feel he got a representative lap time on the board. So I have to say, James, with, 4 out of the top 6 setting exactly the same time as somebody else, it leads to a pretty interesting race on the cards.
It's going to be a fascinating race, but what is the weather going to do? If it's going to be wet conditions, if it enters, then look at that. There's your answer. That
looks like full wets to me. You can just see in the corner of the track there, just to your right-hand side, just behind the standings, you can see standing water. So to me, that is fully wet, extreme wet tyres. So those that have done a lap time on the wet setup might be favourable here. The question is, how will this weather fare for the rest of the 35 laps?
If it's full wet conditions, I honestly think we'll have dry running probably to around halfway stage, maybe just after that point. It's normally that transitional period that happens within the weather, certainly for, in this game, where if you start on full wets, it will probably not likely go to full wets again. It will go inters, and then progressively it'll go on to dries, and we might be in for a fascinating race as we're about to get the formation lap started out on track.
We are indeed. So off they go then on their formation lap to really tiptoe around this circuit. Now, of course, how many drivers would have prepared themselves for wet weather running? I'm starting to think not many. When you practice, you normally practice in the dry and just keep your fingers crossed that it doesn't rain throughout the session. However, it is Kazizel on pole position for FRL on those extreme wet tyres. Just to confirm, nobody is starting on a set of tyres that's not the full wet weather tyres. You'd be mad to start on intermediates in conditions like this. But so there is Kazizel on pole position. So that whole thing about the top 10 starting on different tyres it doesn't take any further action, doesn't take place now, because we're starting on a set of wet tyres, and that means you do not have to run both or 2 compounds of dry tyre. You can, if you really wanted to, try and make these wet weather tyres last as long as possible. They can take a beating, but even the kilometres, the 4.8 kilometres we have here at Canada, the fact that you've got 35 laps of aggressiveness on the tyre wear does mean that it is going to be slightly difficult to get these tyres to the end. But, predicted race strategy we're seeing there, lap 17 to lap 25. And I would probably expect that to be slightly earlier than lap 17, especially if it's going to be wet weather running to the end. What you don't want to do is go onto these wet weather tyres too long. It might be a case of you don't lose too much delta when you're on these tyres for longer, but a fresher set of wet tyres is going to be key to try and get those track positions. James, I'm going to hand over to you because we're onto the back straight. Not a long lap we get here to try and get a little bit of preview in, but your top 3 and drivers to watch in this race.
Ooh, top 3 in wet conditions. I don't think Kazizel's going to get a great start, by the way. I think he is better in dries than he is in wet. So I'm going to go Harry for the win, Amazing Hour for second, and LR1-2. And for third, watch out for Connor, down in 13th. I think he might just have every answer to the guys ahead of him out on track. Connor, Lewis possibly the 2 to watch. Pingu, hopefully, is going to be waddling its way around the track on these wet conditions. I had to get it in, I'm sorry.
Well, one more pun like that, and you'll be shown the door, James. That's final. Nah, not really. I'm only kidding. But we're lining up here then for the 5th round of Esports Masters League as we just see the final couple of cars taking their position on the grid as we await those 5 red lights to start turning on, counting up, and getting us ready for this race, this soggy race here at Montreal as we start counting up any time now. Here we go then for this race in Canada. It is 5 red lights. And we're racing in Montreal. What are the starts like? Lots of wheel spin off the line for sure in these wet weather conditions. But we're now underway, and look at this. There's one of the blue cars trying to get a move up the inside. Kaz has taken the lead out of nothing. It was a mistake then from 2 of the front runners. Kazizzle running deep in towards turns 1 and 2. And Kaz makes that look so easy. He's now taken the lead for Team Mentalism as we now trickle our way down in towards turns 3 and 4. You have to say, though, Amazing Hour's got a good start. Harry Banks is struggling as we ride on board with Amazing Hour. He's looking for a move up the inside of his teammate in towards turns 5 and 6. No way through then. They've got to be careful about racing each other. They're teammates, of course. It is a team event. Nothing to do with the Drivers' Championship. Looks like their Harry Banks is running side by side. Amazing Hour finds his way through up into 3rd place. Disastrous start for Harry Banks. Started this race in 2nd. Now down to 4th as Amazing Hour takes to the curb on the inside of turn 9 there and just about gets underway without any damage whatsoever. Smash meanwhile running side by side with Pedro as we make our way down towards the hairpin. The other Mentalism car is leading the race, but Smash here is battling away for what I believe is going to be P9, and it is trying to get the exit there. And James, there's a little bit of contact behind. Ruben's been caught up with I think that's Pingu.
Yeah, Pingu's been caught up in an instant there, just trying to get the move done down on the inside of him. Ruben had spun the car, half spun it, and now it could potentially be 3 wide down the stretch, certainly 2 wide in the back line between Dantas and Ruben. Pingu side by side. It's really difficult to see in these conditions. Pingu's down the inside though, he finally gets that move done on Ruben, and soon he's up into 15.
Ooh, a moment there for Ruben as he lights up those rear tyres. He's struggling in these conditions. He started inside the top 10. Is that Vettel who's off? It is!
Lewis. I thought Vettel and Lewis had came together, but Vettel is definitely round, and he's got damage. There's a car that's got damage, but it's not him. So somebody else on track has got damage. I wonder if it's Young Power, because he lost a couple of positions.
Well, let's have a look then. Young Power, let's have a look at the front wing. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, great spot there, James. Young Power does have that front wing damage. Left-hand side end plate is missing from the FRL car, so he's going to have to try and nurse that car as long as possible in these treacherous conditions, really. You don't want to be making 2 stops on these wet weather tyres. Gongora trying to battle away with Dantas, and the Friends Cup cars are down in 17th and 18th. Of course, every single position scores a point so long as you make it to the checkered flag. So even if you have the worst race in the world, remember, it's a team event and your team need those points.
Yeah, really good starts as well. Connor, by the way, after all that melee, is up 7 positions. He's up to 6th already. He's doing a fantastic job. Pedro as well dived it down the inside, and Lewis has been a real chief gainer as well. CPI, the team to watch, certainly from the start.
Kazizzle here on the back of Kaz as we now make our way on towards the start-finish line. Kazizzle goes right, then goes left, and Kaz does just enough to defend him, to put him off a move down the inside in towards turn 1. And Kaz, who got a fantastic start off the line, really got the clutch biting point absolutely spot on, and his reaction times were second to none. He's moved up 2 positions into the lead of this race, but Kazizzle now, he's more confident on these wet weather tyres, is looking to try and take that position back. Amazing Hour in 3rd, Harry Banks in 4th, Andres in 5th with Connor 6th, Pedro in 7th, Smash in 8th, Lewis 9th, and Young Power with that front wing damage rounds out the top 10. Just as I say that though, Homaba gets the move there, and that's going through turn 5, so a bit of a less aero there for Young Power. Kind of predictable that he was going to struggle through there.
Yeah, Young Power losing the position to Yamava. I'm aboard with Amazing Hour. Don't adjust your screens, by the way. That is how much it is raining out on track. I am even struggling to see the cars in front out on track. Young Power 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. He might have cut across on the chicane, because Zizzle is putting Kaz under pressure, and Kaz doesn't want to be put under too much pressure because Amazing Hour, I think, is the quicker out to the front 3 currently. Harry Banks is coming in as a bit of reinforcement. Andres is not too far off the pace either. Top 5 just beginning to group together slightly as Kaz and Kazizzle begin to battle for the lead.
Yeah, as we now make our way on towards the start-finish line to complete yet another lap here at a soggy Montreal. Lap 4 of this Grand Prix has begun. and it is Kaz who's leading the way. Kazizel's second. Andres there in the S2V car just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:23.1. Absolutely chucking buckets out there. Pingu, meanwhile, gets a position. He's moved his way past Volokongan. Ruben then in the S2V car comes into the pit lane. Front wing change for the S2V car. New set of tyres as well. So not a great start for Ruben. He will be wanting a much better performance here. He'll now be hoping that there's some sort of safety car to bring him back into this race. Top three, though, separated by 1 second.
Yeah, Ruben Tevez is getting a right screwy moment coming out of turn 2. Now through turns 3 and 4, Vettel recovering well out on track. He's trying to channel Button 2011, remember, where he had to pit in about 5 times out on track and then go on to win the race. This is Vettel's scenario, I think, out on track. He's got to try and make moves quite early on in this race so that it doesn't affect him later on. He can take down Tascon Gora Ruben quite easily, but he's got to think about the conditions. Can he get the move done in these conditions? Maybe not, maybe wait.
And of course, these wet weather tyres, of course, we can just about see there's a different line emerging, a different colour of line on the racing line. And of course, these wet weather tyres, we'll come back to that because Kaz has missed the exit of turn 14 and Kazizel trying to go for a gap. The Mentalism car is turning into him. And there, Kazizel gets that front wing damage. Amazing Hour takes the lead of this race then, with Harry Banks going up into second place, and in a blink of an eye it's suddenly become a Leonis 1-2. Kaz there did not want to give up on that position, and I don't know whether it was a case of he steered there and got caught up and then just tried to lose the back end, or at least lost the back end with the amount he was trying to floor it down the start finish straight. Bit of a mess there between the two of them. What it means is though that Kazizel has front wing damage, and he will be far from pleased for that.
He'll be really far from pleased from that, and he is going to be fired up towards the middle half of this race, certainly. Andres is now on the back of him. Looks to take him quite easily. Vettel, by the way, got the move done on Ruben Teve at turn 10 at the hairpin. Really good move down the inside. Pedro is right in behind Connor as well. Andres just backs out, and Connor's gone into the back of him. And that's, I think, with Pedro trying to go down the inside, so he's stuck really in between a rock and a hard place, trying to make it 3 wide nearly. And now Pedro has got the run. I think Connor might have got damage on the left side end plate, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a look. Oh, he's gone into the back of Andres. Quite late on the brakes. Connor not having a great start, and all that forces now Lewis to try and get the move done on Andres. All carnage coming into the hairpin as Connor's on the back of Smash.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? These wet weather conditions are really wreaking havoc for these drivers. Connor then running into the back of Andres, not once but twice in 2 sectors. Of course, nothing he could do about the second one with that reduced aero, but he comes into the pit lane then to what will be replace that front wing. So too does Kazizel. He comes into the pits and makes his way towards his pit box then to replace his front wing. What that does mean though is Leonis get a 1-2. Amazing Hour leads the way. Harry Banks in second place, but Kaz is still looming in his mirrors there. That Team Mentalism car is not going anywhere, and he will be wanting to try and take back that lead of the race, but it's a long way now because 2 seconds, well 3 seconds more like, separates himself and Amazing Hour. And if there's any damage to that Mentalism car, he's only going to fall further and further back. Homaba though is trying to chase down Lewis ahead of him as we make our way in through this turn 6 and 7 complex, and you have to wait to get on the throttle in the dry, let alone in these sopping wet conditions, as we now make our way towards turns 8 and 9. And Hamaba then, again, the Customs Exilium cars, 8th and 9th right now. They qualified outside of the top 10, but they've kept their noses clean, and right now looking to try and pick up the pieces. Hamaba then thinking about a move down the inside into turn 10, but thinks against it.
I think he'll get him down and towards the Water Championship again, to be honest. Lewis looks now, is now under pressure from Yamava. Yamava just gets caught out wide, but he has got the overtake mode now in full effect to try and get the move done. He takes it off the overtake mode, and that signals to me that he's not going to get the move done. He's going to have a think on Lewis, but he's not going to go for the move. And Lewis actually has really messed up the chicane. He cuts the corner, and he picks up a 3-second time for the gives Yamava now a run at him down in towards turn 1. Dantas, by the way, has gone into a set of intermediate tyres. So that's a really, really big scenario for Dantas to go in. Looking at it, he's losing time. So I would say it's still full wet out on track. Yeah,
I would say that as well. There's still standing water out there, and this rain has not relented one bit in this race. And I think Dantas here is just trying something different, because at the moment something different might be the difference between getting all those lovely points on your side and finishing all the way down the order. He's taken the risk, taken the plunge, but at the moment doesn't look like it's going to pay off Meanwhile, Kazizel then has got to do his best to try and recover. Remember, it's a team event, so it's all about scoring as many points as you can. Kazizel got a good run, a really good run through 3 and 4. Loses the back end through turn 5. Chucks it up the inside in towards turn 6. He'll be on the outside for turn 7 there. And Ruben has to back out of that one. Kazizel was always going to take that line, and poor Ruben had to back out of that one. Kazizel did not make him make it an easy choice there for Ruben Teve as he makes his way through. But Kazizel on the fresher tyres as well. 5-lap fresher tyres, it was always going to be the case.
Yeah, really good move. Here comes Andres as well on the back of Smash. Down the inside he comes, down into the wall of Champion Chicane. Smash backs out of it. Andres is through and he's up into 5th. Smash will try and get the run down in towards turn 1. Suddenly, by the way, it looks like the conditions are beginning to clear themselves up slightly. Just slightly out on track. The cloud is beginning to lift slightly, and that could mean lighter rain forecast maybe within the next few minutes or so. But Andres is through, and he's up into 5th. Being informed, by the way, in the comment section that Harry is not good in the wet conditions, and that is why he's 2nd, and Amazing Hour is beating him in terms of my predictions so far.
Well, at this moment in time, he's still got a healthy 1.1 second lead ahead of Kaz, as we see Hamaba then going all sorts of wayward through turns 3 and 4, desperately trying to keep that back end in check as he now makes his way in towards turns 6 and 7. And of course, whenever it rains, I do use that term, tiptoeing around the circuit. But really, Hamaba is tiptoeing around this circuit, trying to find any sort of grip that's out there for him to use as he tries to close in on Lewis ahead of him in the CPI car as we now round our way through turn 9, riding on board with the Customs Exilium GT car onwards towards turn 10, and of course a little bit too far back, but this is one of the closest battles out on track. Connor and Ruben Teve is looking pretty tasty there, but of course Connor on much fresher tyres than the FFC car ahead of him. Hamaba though, you can barely see the car in front.
Ruben's
and
off.
Ruben is off. No,
Ruben
it's not, it's
slightly.
Dantas. It's Dantas who's crashed.
Retired.
Yeah, crashed at turn 3 and 4. So that is him out of the race. That's one of the GTZ Bulls out of this race. And let's see if we can ride on board with Amazing Hour to see what exactly happened. This looked to me like he's probably... Yeah, but I think what's probably happened is he's aquaplaned. There you can see. I think he's aquaplaned off the corner and has found the wall with some mighty force.
Oh, Vettel having a right moment coming out the final corner, but he's going to get the move done on Gongora. This is the 12th position out on track. Vettel down the inside, recovering well. He's got Kazizel right and behind, and Gongora is going to be mullered for 2 positions here. As Kazizel now around the outside, gives him the room. Does Gongora, but Kazizel on the outside line, coming through turn 2, now through turn 3. The battle of the breakers down in towards turn 3. Kazizel just leaves him short of room, but he was going to get the move done with the car ahead anyways. And Gongora has just been mullered, as I say, for 2 positions. Vettel up to 12th and Kazizel up into 13th. 2 for the price of 1. Signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, nicely done there as we see Hamaba once again getting a little bit wayward out of turn 9. So Dantas retiring at turns 3 and... turn 2 and 3 there, I think that is. 3 and 4 is what it is. 3 and 4. Yeah, you've got it. So Dantas out of this race. He did try on those intermediate tyres, but I'm not surprised that he basically aquaplaned. And Kazizel, as you rightly said, James, looking for a move up the inside in towards turn 10. He's got the inside line. What about Vettel? But he's still hanging on in there, is Vettel, making our way out of the hairpin. And he's got a better run out of the corner. They're going to run side by side towards the chicane. Well, we've seen this happen before in many leagues before us, and I'm sure many leagues afterwards. Cover your eyes, because this one's going to be close. But Vettel backs out of it. Kazizel takes the line, and I think both drivers live to fight another day in this race. Look at Vettel though, he's got a good run out of the final chicane. Onwards we go towards turn 1, but no move is there. Kazizel holds on to 12th place and signs it.
Yeah, Young Power through as well on the exit of the final corner. He's through and he's up into 16th. Looks to me as if the spray is beginning to become less and less out on track. It's becoming much easier in terms of visibility, but it's not becoming easier in terms of the on-track action out on track. These guys still tiptoeing their way, as you say, Kieran, around the track out here in Canada. Connor right on the back of Gongora, and again he nearly locks up into the back of Gongora. Just loses a little bit of time, looks all over the back, and the rain is beginning to ease off, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more drivers begin to come in for set of inters, maybe within the next 5 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the moment, I think full focus is on these full wet weather tyres. Volokongan gets a 3-second time penalty. We'll show you the penalties later down the line, just so we can see what's going on out here.
Down the inside of Gongora. That is a late breaking move, trying to get the move done down into the hairpin. That was Daniel Ricciardo West. Lewis is into the pit lane as well. And now Connor is trying to fight on the back of Gongora. Running down now the straight in towards the final two corners. Has he got enough legs in that car to try and get the move done? Gongora is still in front of him. Connor backs off and Gongora holds on. This will be for P12 out on track, but Pingu is in, and Pingu's gone onto a set of inters.
He has indeed, so he thinks it's time then as we make our way down the pit lane and onwards then towards the track to rejoin. It's a bit of an awkward pit lane exit as you rejoin into turn 2, that is, as we see Lewis take full advantage of that one. Now he's rejoined on a fresh set of wet weather tyres, so that's a huge commitment then. He's rejoined behind Kazizel.
Oh, Pingu really struggling out of the pit lane. If it is intermediate condition tyres, it's certainly not yet. Maybe within the next 2 or 3 laps, but it is going to give him the time. If he gains on Ruben and gains on the guys ahead of him, Pingu's going to be the one to watch later on in this race, especially as we come towards dry running.
Yeah, absolutely, of course, as we see now Kazizel makes his way now up into 10th place. He's now 2 tenths behind Volokongan ahead of him. A penalty there for Gongora. I believe that's his first of the race. As we can see Kazizel here. Is he looking for a move down the inside in towards turn 10? He certainly thinks about it, and you can see that Volokongan just about gives him the room there as we now make our way out of turn 10. Kazizel trying to gather up the rear end so that he can try and put the power down, and now going down the back straight, looking for a move then. I assume this will be to try and set himself up in towards turn 1, but you can see in the background there, that's Lewis right behind Kazizel as well. That's Volokongan, who I think is coming into the pit lane, and such an awkward pit lane where if you're right behind someone, James, who's not planning to pit, and you are, it can lead into a very, very nasty scenario.
It can indeed, and Volokongan is the second, apart from Dantas who went on the set of inters, but he's out the race. Volokongan now is on a set of inters. There's Pingu, that's just gone past him. Pingu has gone past him already, and Volokongan's not even at the end of the pit lane. So Pingu is not really gaining time on the guys ahead, but he will gain time longer term out on track ahead of these guys. I think we're still about 3-4 laps away, I think, from certainly intermediate run. And remember, the inters can dispose of about 25 litres worth of water out on track, while the wets can do nearly 75, 80 litres. Kazizel's right on the back of Dende, coming down in towards turn 8 and 9. This is for 8 and 9, and Kazizel, brilliant move down the inside, gets the move done, and another move that's signed, sealed and delivered. But look at Lewis right on the back, he's all over the place. Vettel's on the back of him as well, and now Lewis trying to go around the outside into the hairpin. Can he get the move done? Can he get the car stopped first of all? No, I think Dende is going to have the move done, but with the traction, Lewis is going to get it. I'll hand back over to you, Kieran.
Yeah, as Connor got the move done then on Gongora as he makes his way now up the position in towards the hairpin. Late braking, shoved it down the inside and it's stuck. Meanwhile, Lewis is looking on the back of Dende here as we now make our way in towards that chicane, but no way through, no way to try and dive it up the inside, at least not yet. But look at the traction, look at the exit that Lewis got out of the final chicane. Now making our way towards turn 1. Lewis is making it pretty clear he wants to go down the inside, and he makes that move stick then. So Lewis in the CPI car moves up to 9th place. Dende moves down to 10th. Vettel losing that back end coming out of turn 2 is in 11th place. Connor then in 12th. So it's for 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. It's CPI, TTG, TTG, CPI. It's a true sandwich here. But having to look at the other orders here, well, amazing how it leads the way by nearly 5 seconds, and it's always encouraging for the race lead. If you don't get too much coverage and you're leading the race, that's always a good sign, can never not be a good sign. Pedral, though, in the GTZ Bull Racing car, he's up into 4th place trying to chase down Kaz.
Oh, Connor, I thought was going to go down the inside and Vettel down in towards turn 8 and 9. Yeah, I've got to be honest though, Andres has just hooked on to the back of those guys, and within a second, as Dende has just lost the traction zone out of turn 8 and 9. Connor side by side, they make contact, and Connor now dives it down the inside of Vettel. Down the inside he goes. Daniel Ricciardo West, a little bit of touching with the wheels, but Connor is through, and he's up into 10th position. So that TTG sandwich now non-existent. It's like squashed mayonnaise in the middle of that sandwich.
Well, Young Power also took advantage of Gongora, who hesitated in towards turn 10. He's now up a position. Meanwhile, we'll have a look up the field then towards that 9th place as we now make our way, tiptoeing our way through in towards that final chicane. Lap 14 of this race has started. Amazing Hour lead from Harry Banks in second, Kaz in third place. Meanwhile, here's Young Power launching a move down the inside there in towards turn 1, and he's got the move done then ahead of Denda, and Gongora will look to try and take advantage as he now exits turn 2, try and get the better traction, but he loses that back end slightly. He's still got the inside for turn 2, and he takes the position away. So Denda, in the blink of an eye, is down 2 positions. Gongora taking a trip across the grass.
Yeah, nearly did a Hamilton Vettel from a couple of years ago, remember, where Vettel rejoined track in front of Hamilton and then nearly made contact. Similar scenario, but Gongora keeps the position. He got the move done, but he's slowly got into 13th. It looks to me as if the rain has really eased off now out on track. Pingu, though, is definitely not feeling the effects of those tyres, those Inters that he's went on to. In fact, all the Inters runners are still losing the time. So what I said about 3 or 4 laps ago is probably going to happen in about 3 or 4 laps' time. So don't blame me, blame the weather.
Blame the weather. That's always a good excuse to use there, James. But there you can see Andres is closing in on Pedro here, one of the S2V cars who, well, S2V need these points because although they've had good performances on one side of the garage in these races, the other side of the garage hasn't been scoring that many points. So when it comes to the overall standings, it really can play effect.
Flurry of pit stops, Pingu catching Ruben. I think it's Inter's time, actually, so whatever I just said about 30 seconds ago, now throw it out the window, because they're all coming in for a set of intermediates, and Lewis is the first one to pit in with the front wing change, and he's just held up his teammate, I believe. Oh, it's actually Vettel that's behind him, who's his teammate out on track, technically, but Vettel has been held up in the pit lane, and that is absolutely disastrous. His race has just gone from bad to worse in that pit lane. The mechanics are not ready for him. And now they are, and he's been cost at least 20, 25 seconds maybe in that pit stop. Absolute disastrous. But Pingu now, the leading intermediate runner, beginning to really find the tyres now coming into play. Whatever I said, as I say, 30 seconds ago, yeah, ignore it.
Well, yeah, you can see Amazing Hour carries on, but Harry Banks is in then for a set of intermediates. So too is Kaz. Pedro following Andres too. How about Smash? Is he into the pits? Yes, he is. So we're going to see a common trend here. Hamaba comes into the pits as well. How about Kaziza? Well, he had to go onto a set of wet weather tyres. He had front wing damage. He's climbed his way back up to 8th place. So really good job from Kaziza so far. So Harry Banks then makes his way on pit exit, and he will rejoin back into 2nd place.
Smash got held up in the pit lane, I think, by Kaz as well, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to lose a little bit more time. Maybe come into the clutches of Pingu, but Pingu's all the way up the circuit, so Smash is going to be coming out, I think, easily in 7th position, because Zizzle's on for a set of Inters as well, as is Gongora as he comes into the pit lane. Smash is out in a clear P7 out on track. One man, though, that is still going on, because he's sacrificing himself for Harry, out on track is Amazing Hour. The leader of the race, still sacrificing himself, but look at the fastest lap times now being set out on track. And in fact, Amazing Hour is coming up to lap Ruben on a set of Inters, but he's on a set of wets and still yet to come into the pit lane. 21.5 seconds. I think that gap's going to be about 2 seconds when they come out the pit lane. I
think less than that. It could be 1.5 by the time he gets to that pit lane exit. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Young Power, meanwhile, on the back of Volokongan. This is the battle for 11th place as we now fly away through turn 5. Here comes Young Power looking for a move up the inside in towards turn 6. Lovely. Stamped it, sent it, and delivered it. Young Power up into 11th place, and Volokongan there couldn't really do a lot about that one. So Young Power up to 11th place. Amazing Hour then has just stopped, and he's on a set of intermediate tyres. There's Harry Banks who makes his way in through that final chicane. Onwards we go then towards that start-finish straight, and look at that. Amazing Hour is going to take the lead of this race still as Harry Banks sets the fastest lap of the race, hurtling our way now in towards turn 2, and there you go, 3.7 seconds is the gap there between the two cars, and it's now grown actually to 4.4, so the gap is more than either of us put together, James.
Yeah, honestly, we're both wrong. That's why we're commentators and we get things wrong from time to time. Lewis on the back of Volokongan for 12th and 13th. They're on the penalty situation. I know Michael from SCV wanted to see that. Kaz has got 3 seconds, Pingu on 6 seconds, Young Power, Volokongan, Lewis, Gongora, Ruben, Dende. That's a hell of a list. They've all got penalties. Lewis down the inside, he makes contact with Volokongan. Down in towards turn 1, right side end plate goes absolutely flying. So late on the brakes, he couldn't get the car stopped. Into the back of Volokongan he goes, and contact, and his race has now gone from bad to worse. 9 seconds worth of penalties, and now he's got right side end plate damage. Yeah, and that's not going to help him whatsoever. We're just about getting towards halfway distance in this race, and well, we'll have to have another look at that when we get the chance. But I mean, at this moment,
He's got that front wing damage, and he'll have to either nurse that back to the pit lane, and oh yeah, he just tried to move up the inside there, left it way too late to steer left to get the move done, and he's run into the back of the car ahead. So Lewis there is wounded at the moment. He has to try and carry on as much as possible, but for CPI that will not be good news because they are towards the bottom of the table. They need every point they can get right now, and with one of the cars having front wing damage in Lewis, that's not going to help their chances at all. Andres, meanwhile, is, well, after the pit stops, fallen away from Pedro, but now he's set the fast lap of the race and really on it.
Connor's right on the back, trying to go around the outside of the wall of Championship chicane. They're both making a little bit of contact. Somehow they've got through that too wide, and now Pingu's got them run out the corner. Connor tries to make the overtake now with the overtake mode. He's now forced to the outside line, dumping to the inside line, and that is a great move by Connor. Down the inside he goes. Pingu is still there. Pingu is still trying to fight and put his beak in between that car, but Connor is through and he's up into 9th position. Great racing out on track. Connor through and he's up into 9th. And yes, that was another another penguin pun. Another
Pingu pun for sure. Pedro, meanwhile, closing in on Casby while down in towards turn 10. Full lock up there into turn 10, into that hairpin to make sure that car slows down as we now make our way on the exit through 11 and then through turn 12 as Pedro here wants this podium. He can sense this podium coming. Look at this. He's closing in on Kaz. Moves to the right-hand side of the track. Thinks about a move, but wisely, I think, backs out of it. But if he gets a good run through the final chicane, he's got a great chance of a run on Kaz in towards turn 1. Let's see what he can do then. On board with him as we make our way down towards turn 1. Not quite yet for Pedro, but he's right on the back of that Mentalism car ahead. And of course the GTZ Bulls do need points, and what a way to do it if they can grab a podium, at least in one of the cars. Dantas, their other driver, retired from this race, so he unfortunately will not be able to add to the tally that GTZ Pedro is doing so far. But if he keep it on the track and keep up with this pace, he's got a great chance of passing Kaz, who of course has some sort of penalty. Let's see what the penalties are like right now. Lots of 3s across the board. Kaz has 3 seconds worth of penalties there. You can see Pingu has 6 with Young Power 3, Borakongan 3, Gongora 3, Ruben Teve in 14. He's got 6 seconds worth of penalties. Denda 6 seconds. Lewis has 9 seconds worth of penalties, and Ruben in 18th place having 6 seconds worth of penalties. That's Young Power adding to his list.
Yeah, Young Power just rolled on board with that as well. Pingu gets a little snap of oversteer, so does Young Power. Nearly like Hartley Stroll, that collision through turn 5 a couple of years back, and Young Power now on the back of Pingu, and Young Power, has he got the power to try and get past on the back of Pingu? Borakongan's not too far off either, 4.4 seconds, but the man to watch out on track is Andres. He's in 5th position out on track, but he's catching Pedro, who is on a pad, I may add, as well, and Kaz in front. Watch out as Young Power's down the inside on Pingu. That is a really let ball move to try and get the move done. He has to give that position back, surely. And yeah, Pingu's back into P10, Young Power P11. But he is going to have another go at him, running down the straight in for the World Championship game. Pingu tries to make that car look as wide as possible, tries to make it in the centre of the track, so he can't get through. Young Power's still going to try and go around the outside, though. Just getting a little bit on the verge of aggressive racing, if I've got to be honest. But Pingu hanging up for P10, and Young Power, I think, gives up now in his pursuit for P10, and will come again next lap around.
Yep. Meanwhile, Andres trying to close in on Pedro, but 1.1 is the gap so far. Pedro is just trying to get some pace on the board, trying to find a way past Kaz and trying to find that good exit. Not quite that one through turn 9, but never rule him out. He's gone 3/10 quicker than his own personal best through Sector 2 right now, so he's clearly on the mark and pushing as hard as he can to try and close in on Kaz. Looking at the rain then, it really has subsided, but it's still a little bit of rain out there. Light rain, I'd call that one. As we now make our way down the back straight, looking at Pedro, and Andres once again closes in to within a second. Of course, no DRS in these conditions, as now they tiptoe their way into that final chicane and onwards towards the start-finish straight. Amazing Hour still leads, though, as we've got yellow flags in Sector 1, and that's Lewis out of this race.
Oh, Young Power down the inside of Pingu. They both make contact again. VSC deployed, and Young Power got the move done just as the VSC got deployed, so he's throwing it up into 10th.
Yeah, that
Pingu
looks like...
a penalty.
Yeah, that looks like turn 5. And that looks like he's spun up the rear tyres. No, that's the exit of turn 4. So he's hit the wall. Yeah, he's hit the wall on the right-hand side, coming out of the corner. And unfortunately, that's the end of his race. So only one CPI car remains in Connor, and in a race where they really needed to get some points on the board. It's not going to happen this time around. Kazizel comes into the pits though, and onto a set of new intermediate tyres. So he's used this virtual safety car to get on fresh tyres to try and get him to the end of the race. He's rejoined in 9th place. And
look who's behind him, his teammate. His teammate's right behind him, and that's why he's been done. Pingu was going to try and go around the outside. They'll back in the VSC restart. Gongora has picked up a drive-through penalty for speed under the VSC as well. So that's not going to help the FFC team out on track with his teammate 5.2 seconds in behind. Volakongan as well into the pit lane. Pingu, though, trying to get onto the back of Young Power.
Pedral there getting lighting up the rear tyres on the exit of turn 10, as well as that, James, as on top of Gongora. Vettel also has a drive-through penalty. We can see it on my screen, that DT, that ominous DT, that drive-through penalty. So unfortunately that is for I think speeding under the virtual safety car. Kazizel, meanwhile, brand new, fresh, intermediate tyres, and he really wanted to make good use of those.
I honestly think, looking at how the rain is beginning to lighten up lap upon lap, I'm not going to be surprised if we see, and if I say these words in about 3 or 4 laps time, it's now going to become dry out on track because the rain will stop. I think we're near that point, because Zizzle is right on the back of Connor. He came out the pit lane, he was about 1.5 seconds ahead of Young Power, his teammate, just in behind him. But Zizzle out on track, now beginning to fly, but 8th position at this stage. Certainly, if there was to be more pit stops to be made, then he would go further up the field. If not, 8th place is probably the best we can hope for.
Yeah, Kazizel right on the back of Connor. Meanwhile, as we make our way in through turn 5, through that long right-hander, and of course you want to make sure that the car stays in control there. You want to be in control of that car all the way through. So easy to spin up those rear tyres, as we now see Kazizel making his way now down towards turn 8, right on the back of Connor at this moment in time. Very close between the two of them right now, but they're matched for pace. Kazizel will be wanting to make use of his fresh intermediate tyres to get him to the end of the race. He used that virtual safety car to get onto a fresh set of tyres. Kazizel launches it down the inside. We go then in towards turn 10 as he slowed that car down. Yes, he has. Connor will try and get the traction down on the X. You can see him, you can hear him going up through the gears to reduce the wheel spin. Kazizel's got the move for now, but here comes Connor on the counter attack. Down the back straight we go towards that final chicane. They're going to go side by side. Hold on tight, close your eyes, this is going to be close. Up the inside Kazizel goes. He just about holds onto that position. Connor has to settle for 9th place. Kazizel hangs on to 8th place. He deserves that one, and he's held on.
Yeah, really good move that by Kazizel. In all of that, Pedro was closing in on Kaz as well. And has Kaz got damage on that car? I'm just trying to spot it out. If he has, it's very light, because Pedro's now catching. Andres now catching as well. Kaz is now really under pressure. He might be becoming, actually, just overheating those tyres purely out on track. Pedro's chance now to take P3 off him.
Yeah, as we now make our way through turn 10, another 3-second time penalty for Vettel. In fact, that's his first penalty of the race, and so that will be added to the end of his time here. Pedro, meanwhile, of course, Kaz has 3 seconds worth of penalties, so Pedro here could afford to just let Kaz stay in front and stay part of the train. The only problem is, right behind him is Andres in the S2V car. He does not want to let the S2V car through. Pedro, meanwhile, gets a good launch out of the final corner, but Kaz really does turn up that ERS battery, and Pedro, there's just no way through for him at this moment in time. An Amazing Hour picks up his first 3-second time penalty of the race. Won't have a huge effect on him right now, but he's got to be careful, because if he lets those penalties mount up, that could be cause of trouble, cause of concern for Leonis.
He's still got a 4-second buffer, I should say, over the cars behind. Harry, Kaz, he's obviously got 3-second time penalty. I'm just right on board with Andres, purely to see if he can try and get Pedro and Kaz. And Pedro now, right on the back of Kaz. This could be the opportunity now for the Brazilian. Kaz to the inside line to try and defend. Pedro around the outside, but doesn't want to go for the move. All of this hesitancy from Pedro and all of this defensive driving from Kaz is going to bring Andres soon into play. And I think I can see, just in the background of Pedro, nearly goes into the back of Kaz, so close. I think I can see blue sky just beginning to break through the clouds at some part of the track.
Well, Pedro riding on board with him. Running aboard with the GTZ Bull car again, looking to the inside there, maybe just to cool off his tyres at this point, but now making his way through that final chicane and onwards now towards the start finish straight. He's got a really good launch out of the final corner. This could be the moment then for Pedro. As you can see there, Kaz goes to the inside to defend in towards turn 1, but there you'll see Pedro will try a little bit of a cutback through turn 2, try and get the better exit, the better launch off the second corner. Kaz lights up the rear tyres slightly. Pedro just can't find that way through, and the Mentalism car of Kaz is managing to hold on and defend really, really well. The only problem is this encouraging Andres to just keep on the back here, because if he's just looking on, got the popcorn by his side, and he's waiting for this battle to develop, well, he could just try and take full advantage if somebody makes a mistake.
I think that's what he's waiting for. I think Pedro is putting Kaz under a bit of pressure, but not a lot of pressure out on track. We've got Volokongan as well battling with Ruben down at the final corner. Ruben coming through the final corner in 12th. I think we're going to stay as we are, running down in towards turn 1 with this battle, certainly. But Andres is just all over the back of Pedro. He's been chomping at the bit throughout this race. He's been getting close enough to the back of Pedro. There into the hairpin, he was very close indeed. But Pedro has got to try and close up on Kaz. Just a slight bit of hesitancy, I think, is costing Pedro's look at the closing speed for Andres. He crosses right up to the back of Pedro, and with 9 laps to go, still all to play for third.
Well, Pedro's got to keep his nerve here. His nerves of steel will be deployed fully because he wants to attack Kaz, but he's got to defend from Andres. Now heading our way down towards turn 1. And of course, Pedro here is just trying to take different lines to the Mentalism car ahead of him, trying to find some sort of grip out there where the Mentalism car is missing. But unfortunately, that means he's going to have to be more conservative with the corners that he takes, and therefore can't fully attack on the back of Kaz. That's just encouraging Andres to keep his own pace, do his own race for now, and see if he can come into the race later on. Hamaba, meanwhile, 2.5 seconds behind this battle. He's 3 seconds down at the moment, but never rule him out as Connor comes into the pits. He's on a fresh set of intermediate tyres and will make his way now down the pit lane.
Yep, he's going to come out and clear out as well, and that's why he's probably came into the pit lane. To get into that clear out, he's only lost 2 positions to Power and Ingu.
Yeah, Pedro's looking for a move then up towards turn 10, but no way through. Yellow flags, and I think that's Ruben who's lost it at turn 9, and it looks like just from the mini-map he'll get underway again.
Yeah, just on ball with him there. He's actually gone spearing off into the wall by the looks on where the runoff area is, coming out of the exit through turn 8 and on the exit of turn 9. Really bad indeed. Pedro's still all over the back of Kaz. If we're on board with him now.
He missed his breaking point there for sure, as Pedro had to slow it right up. Here's Andres' chance to try and get the move done. Moves to the left-hand side of the track, inside of turn 1, and the S2V car pounces. He was waiting for something like that. He's now up into 4th place. It's now his turn to try and get past Kaz, but he's got to make up that time that Pedro lost. 1.6 seconds is the gap, and that was just a simple mistake there from Pedro. Missed his breaking point, had to sacrifice the exit of the corner so he could make the corner in the first place. Now he drops to 5th.
And now they've got Yamaba closing up as well. Yamaba is beginning now to really close in out on track. Pingu is in on 15 lap-old inters. Look at how many laps these guys are going to be doing out on track. Do you expect more pit stops before the end?
Do you know something? It's going to be tricky, because if you're one of the front runners, you'll want to sort of work out what else, who else is out there. As you see Pingu there, as you rightfully said, into the pit lane onto a fresh set of tyres. But it's going to get to that point, isn't it? Because we went onto the intermediate tyres just before halfway in this race, and normally these intermediates will be able to get to the end. But if you're talking about guys like Kaz, Andres, Pedro, who've been battling away and in each other's dirty air, then you might find that the tyre wear has been exacerbated somewhat. So I think for the drivers who've got the track position, they'll try and make their tyres last to the end of this race. I think they will be able to, so long as they haven't had to battle Amazing Hour. Meanwhile, 10 seconds ahead of his teammate. That will become 7 seconds at the end of this race. But he's got no reason to push. He's got every reason to conserve his tyres.
Smash into the pit lane as well, so another one that decides to come into the pit lane to go for a fresh set of intermediates. No wing change at all, and he's now going to fill out into P9 because Connor's running down and behind. Young Power also running down and behind. In fact, he's going to come out in P8, so I'll correct myself there. Smash has only lost 1 position. He comes out in P8. He doesn't feel his tyre life can get to the end of the race. Are we gonna? I hope we're not gonna see deja vu. Volokongan is through on Ruben down the inside until the World Championship game gets the move done. I hope, my final comment on things, I hope we don't get to see deja vu of last night in TTML.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, let's just keep everything crossed for that one. Lap 28 of 35 here. Amazing Hour still leads. He'll soon start lap 29 of this race, and he will do right about now. 7 laps to go here in Canada, in this soggy Montreal circuit, and the Australian is doing a fine job of leading the way for Leonis, and it's a Leonis 1-2 at this moment in time. And of course, if you're not familiar with the alternate point scoring system, every position scores points so long as you make it to the checker flag. So Dantas and Lewis will not score points. Andres thinking about a move up the inside of turn 1, but backed out in the end. Just realised that there wasn't a gap there that he was looking for to try and launch a move down the inside of the Team Mentalism car.
Yamava, another one into the pit lane for a set of inters, and this is really getting interesting. He's came out relatively in clear air. He's going to be about a second and a half ahead when he comes out the pit lane on Kazizel, and Yamava will rejoin ahead of him out on track. He's into wide slightly, but he's about a second and a half, so I'll take that. A second and a half. That's the first prediction I've got right so far tonight. Yamava out of the pit lane in 6th position, but Andres is still putting Kaz under a lot of pressure. Connor on the fastest lap of the race, a 1:18.694. I had to try and move my head there to try and see it because I've got my drink in the way.
Plenty of opportunities to have a drink, or at least none at all, if this race is anything to go by. Andres right on the back of Kaz then as we make our way in towards that turn 10 hairpin. All about the traction here, and then down the back straight towards the chicane. Then you've got that slipstream from the French team ahead as we make our way towards the chicane, and again closing and closing, but not quite enough. He'll look to the entrance and exit of the chicane here to try and get that traction down as we make our way out of the final corner onto the start finish straight. This could be a chance then for Andres. Will he try and move this time? No, still slightly too far back.
Just saw a little bit of a contact with the wall by Gongor. He's nearly lost control of the car, and that's going to be Pingu's position all day long. Pingu is through, and he's up into 14th. Gongor just having a right snap of oversteer. He's on 13 lap old inters. Those inters are beginning to go. Everyone is just trying to manage their tyre life out on track, and if you can't manage your tyre life, you're going to be finding yourself coming into the pit lane, like the likes of Yamava, Kizizzle, Smash, etc., etc.
I think as well, especially for Hamaba, he had nothing to lose by going onto a set of fresh intermediate tyres. He's gone for the safe option, which sometimes isn't always the bad option of the field. Sometimes trying to make your tyres last to the end gets you very preoccupied about how much tyre wear you're using. You won't push as hard at that point, whereas now for Hamaba, he doesn't have to worry about tyre wear. He can push as hard as he can. He's closing in, 14.6 behind the 3 battling cars for 3rd place. But if we've seen anything, it's that in these last 5 laps, they really could be turned on their head. Here comes Andres, though, on the run, looking for a left-hand side move. It'll be round the outside as we head in towards the chicane, and at long last, we have a car that passes the Mentalism car. Kaz comes in, Pedro stays out, so Kaz then will find out now if he changes that front wing, if he did have damage. But Andres finally gets the move done, and Kaz says, you know what, I'm going to come in, brand new set of tyres on the car, no front wing change at all, so the Team Mentalism car going for fresh tyres. I think he's trying to react to Hamaba here as we now make our way down the pit lane. 5 laps left.
It's going to be close coming out of the pit lane. I think Yamava is just going to be out ahead. I think Kaz is going to switch literally right in between the slot between Yamava and Kazizzle. The P60 now rejoined, and Kazizzle trying to go to the end of the race. He will get to the end of the race, Kazizzle. He's the one that's pretty much guaranteed. He's picked up a 3-second time penalty out on track. Kaz now on fresh inters is now going to push for Yamava for 5th, and that is going to be the main battle developing. Pingu was right on the back of Dende as well, running down into all the champion chicane. Rain is still falling out on track. Whoever predicted the dry weather, I'm afraid you're fired as a weatherman. Pingu right on the back of Dende out on track for 13th.
Yeah, well, you can see here with only 4 laps to go, 3 and a bit if you're picky, Amazing Hour has just done a brilliant job at the front of that field as we had a bit of a hectic start, kept his nose clean. So too, in fairness, did Harry Banks, and he's got no penalties whatsoever so far as he now tiptoes his way through in towards the first couple of corners. And someone in the chat saying that he wasn't quite as good in the wet weather conditions. Well, I'm telling you now, only 12 seconds off his teammate, 9 seconds ahead of anybody else, still pretty respectable.
I believe the rain has stopped out on track.
I think you're right, it has. So I think, Pingu there, almost running into the back of Denda there, but he manages to stop the car in time. I think it will be intermediate tyres to the end of the race at this point in time. I think the rain has just stopped too late for any chance of dry weather running here at Montreal. But meanwhile, Connor is on the back of Young Power as we make our way on towards turns 1 and 2. He's looking for a move as he launches it down the inside in towards turn 1. And there you can see the F4L car just left him the room there. Connor up to 9th place.
Yeah, really easy move. I think Young Power just invited him through. No way he was going to fight that on 17 lap old inters. He's just trying to maintain those tyres to the end. Pingu gets a phenomenal run out the final corner as well on Dende. The German and the Spaniard now going to go out at TTG against CGT. Bit of a mouthful to say, but Dende's through and he's still in P13. Runs wide coming through turn 1, then through turn 2. And Pingu is on the back of him and they go ghosted because Amazing Hours behind them about to lap them actually.
Yeah, and that is just how quick Amazing Hour has been all day today. 3 seconds worth of time penalty, really the only sort of scratch on the armour for the Australian here today. But at the moment, he's doing a really good job of keeping it all on the track and keeping it nice and tidy. Of course, the weather has not given him an easy ride here as we head towards the final few laps of this race where it will start drying up. But for the drivers, they won't really be looking at a fresh set of tyres at this late stage of the race. They'll just be looking to get to the end now on whatever tyre they have and look after them as much as possible. But those that haven't pitted in so far on this sort of, well, what do you call this? The second stint on these intermediate tyres. They've pitted in when the changeover from wets to inters happen. They haven't pitted in. They're the ones that are going to be desperately looking at their tyre temperatures at the moment.
Yeah, they will, and Dende has just been overtaken actually by Pingu out on track. Around the outside he goes. I think Dende was trying to think that was Amazing Hour, but no, Pingu is through. He's up into 13, got a phenomenal run, as now Dende gets out the way. And Gora and Vettel, moving by the way into the pit for a set of soft compounded tyres. He will try and get what would be a fastest lap point. Of course, no fastest lap point available here in the Esports Masters League. But he may as well try. There's hardly any spray coming off those tyres out on track. And Gongora now getting the one on Dende. This is for 14th and 15th. Down the inside he goes. 18th. Oh, they make contact. The ghosting system has completely failed right there. Both of them make contact. And that is why you should not fight when there's a ghosting battle going on. Because you're just going to end up in absolute tears like that.
Well, he'll rejoin at least, but he'll be down the field. Kaz, meanwhile, is trying to close into the back of Hamaba as we make our way now down in towards turns 1 and 2. Of course, these two on fresh tyres.
Andres has got a puncture. Andres has got a puncture. Rear left tyre has just exploded out on track, and now Pedro is trying to desperately get through. He doesn't realise he's got a puncture, and now he's through. And has his front left gone as well as Andres? No, it's just his rear left. But that was disastrous from the STV man. It comes to show now who else is going to get a puncture out on track. Pedro's got a puncture. Left rears are shotting out everywhere. It's exactly the same last night as TTML in Japan.
Well, here's the thing. Oh, Harry Banks has got one as well. Running in second place, rear left puncture. All the rear lefts are going here. What about Amazing Hour? Well, he's gone past the pit lane now. This is it. This is his one lap. God. He's got to try and make this last as much as possible, but it's all late drama here. Don't count your chickens before they've hatched, because these rear left tyres on those that haven't pitted yet are absolutely failing. But I think Harry Banks here, no, he's now not on punctured tyres. I'm not sure where that one came from, but anyway, he's now absolutely fine all of a sudden. However, Amazing Hour will just be looking to try and nurse those tyres. We've had warning shots here. Kaz, meanwhile, makes his way now up into 4th place. Pedro is falling all the way down the order. So too is Andres. So unfortunate. It puts Hamaba, though, up into 3rd place when these late stages. Yellow flag in Sector 3, and Andres finding the wrong way round the circuit as he tries to desperately get as much as possible. Pedro makes his way back to the pit lane. Brand new set of tyres will be on that car just to get some points on the board. But Amazing Hour will just be trying to keep those tyres in good nick right now as we make our way through turn 10 for the final time. Harry Banks, though, no tyre problems for him, it seems, as Amazing Hour now makes his way on towards the back straight. And so unfortunate for Pedro and Andres there, and those laps of battling have come back to bite them on the rear left tyre. Amazing Hour now makes his way in towards that final chicane, holding on to whatever tyre wear is left. It's going to be Amazing Hour who crosses the line to take a dominant dominating win here in Esports Masters League at the Canadian Grand Prix. What a drive from the Australian. Absolutely masterclass drive there. Harry Banks then will make his way through that final chicane and onwards towards the start-finish line. It's a Leonis 1-2. Absolutely brilliant drive from both drivers, and they have scored maximum points here tonight. Dender is spun off just before the chicane there. Hamaba then will come across the line as Ruben desperately tries to get across the line. Hamaba then will claim third place across the line. Kaz will be fourth. Kaziza will come across the line in fifth, but Smash might change up the order slightly. But what about the Customs Exilium GT car of Hamaba, who manages to cross the line and get a podium in this race? Brilliant drive from him, and it was all about who was bravest and who had the strategy. Kaziza wins 6th place. Connor crashes across the line. Frustrating race for the CPI team, but they've got some decent points in Connor across the line. Young Power will cross the line. He spins up his rear tyres there, crossing the line in 8th place. Pedro, what a moment it could have been if his tyres just held on for a couple more laps. He'll get 9th place there. Volakongan in 10th place then. Ruben Teve in the Friends F1 Cup team will come across the line in 11th place. Pingu across the line in 12th, and Gongora will come across the line in 13th place. But it's a day to remember for Leonis here in Canada. It's a Canadian masterclass from the Australian in Amazing Hour. He takes the win here in Esports Masters League. Connor for CPI takes the in-game Driver of the Day award. Well, we make our way on towards a podium where I don't think anybody could have predicted this one. And have predicted that last lap drama. We did not. But it will be Amazing Hour who gets his way onto this top step of the podium, followed by his teammate in Harry Banks. And it's a podium on the cards as well for Customs Exilium GT. What a fantastic race. What a dramatic race. And what a race to watch along. James, I'm struggling to find the words to describe that one.
Dramatic ending. It's as simple as that. 2 punctures very late on. It was all about time management in the end. And if you rewind the stream back, I might have got the front 2 wrong in terms of the names, but I did say an LR1-2, so I'll take that.
You did indeed. And there are your unofficial results here of EML round number 5 at the Canadian Grand Prix. Amazing Hour puts in an amazing shift to take the race win by 12.9 seconds ahead of his teammate in Harry Banks. Hamaba then grabs a podium for Customs Exilium, and they're moving up the order there. Kaz in 4th place, Smash in 5th, and what was a difficult start for Mentalism at the start of this race. They managed to recover to 4th and 5th, so absolutely fair play to them. Kaziza wins 6th, Connor 7th, Young Power in 8th, Pedro in 9th, recovering from that one, and Volakongan in 10th, Ruben Teve in 11th place, Pingu 12th, Gongora 13th, Andres 14th, Vettel in 15th, Dender in 16th, Ruben did cross the line in 17th place, Lewis and Dantas non-finishers, non-point scorers for their team. Tough race for Ruben out there. Tough race as well for Vettel and Dender. Andres falling right down the order after his puncture, and he finishes in 14th place. And the trend continues, unfortunately, for S2V, only this time both drivers struggling in this race, and one of them through no real fault of his own, but the tyre just simply would not last another 7 kilometres or so to get to the checkered flag. But I don't think Leonis would have predicted a 1-2 here at Canada. And I don't think we did either, apart from James. He predicted it. But an absolutely majestic race and worthy of the finish we had.
Worthy of the finish indeed. And LR have now extended their championship lead. There was only 5 points coming into tonight, but that's going to be a hell of a lot bigger. I now think CGT, Custom Exilium, and Team Mentalism are now going to be 2nd and 3rd in the standings because of STV finishing 15th and 9th. Well, I think it was like 14th and 17th or something out on track, and TTG finishing well down the field as well. So unfortunate, I think, for both teams, but it comes to show LR are going the right way. CGT are still going the right way with Yamaba's first podium as well, and Team Mentalism are now beginning to come up on the rails as well. Join us next month. I believe it's the British Grand Prix next month, if I'm not mistaken.
It will be indeed. Hopefully you will join us for that one. And of course, all the usual stuff. If you fancy watching more great racing like that, then make sure you subscribe to the channel down below. Hit the notification bell so you're notified every time we go live here on League Racing TV. If it's a weekday, we're racing. And it's as simple as that. So hopefully you will join us for a couple of races before the end of 2020. And we'll send off this year in the best way possible with lots of races races on the cards. Make sure as well you're following the official Twitter of Esports Masters League, EML_F1. So make sure you go ahead, follow them over there. And what will be the official results, the official top 3 will be posted there once all the stewards' inquiries have been cleared up.
Just looking in the comments, Amazing Hour 74% tyre wear, Harry 80% tyre wear. So they came very close to getting punctures.
That is definitely puncture territory, especially 65% and over now is real puncture territory if you're not careful. So they came very close, but managed to hold on and take that 1-2. And I could tell you right now, if that race went on a lap longer, they might have struggled towards the end there, but it didn't. It ended at lap 35, so they got that 1-2. And of course, make sure as well, if you're liking the commentary box, then make sure you follow us down below. Myself, Kieran McGinley, and James Head, our Twitters are down below, as well as your man behind the scenes in Tom Zaggers. He has been working so hard for these graphics. More along the way, I know there is, and using that split screen to good effect as well to try and keep you up to date with the action as much as possible, so we try not to miss anything. But a huge thank you to everyone behind the scenes, and we will be live next month. We've got a whole month to wait before we can go racing again here in Esports Masters League, and I hope you will join us for that. In the meantime though, we do have to say farewell and goodbye, but we've left you on a very, very tantalising cliffhanger as we head into 2021 for 5 more races, hopefully of the same, of Esports Masters League. Until then, please look after yourself in this crazy world we live in right now. And from myself, Kieran McGinley, and James Head, well, we'll end it in the proper way. I've been Kieran McGinley.
I've been James Head.
Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.
Heaven just knows what it wants. Will I go back to the place where I belong? Everyone could break my heart, but I try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. You'll be my pleasure.